When Diego Martinez, a 32-year-old security guard, saw that elegant woman's credit card being declined at the cafe on Gran Via, he didn't hesitate for a second. He took out his last 3 and paid for that stranger's coffee. "Don't worry, ma'am. It happens to anyone," he said, with a kind smile. What Diego didn't know was that this woman in a gray suit and leather handbag was Carmen Vasquez, CEO of Vasquez Holdings, one of the most powerful companies in Spain, who was going through the worst crisis of her life, and that this 3 gesture would forever change the destiny of both of them. Because sometimes kindness toward a stranger can open doors that not even millions can open. Madrid, 8:30 in the morning. Gran Via pulsed with its usual frenetic energy. Diego Martinez, 32 years old, walked toward his workplace at the El Corte Inglés shopping center wearing his blue security guard uniform. He had started his shift at 6 a.m. and was already on his second round of the day. Diego hadn't always been a security guard. 3 years ago, he was a promising computer engineer, but the economic crisis and a series of layoffs had forced him to reinvent himself. Despite everything, he always maintained his characteristic smile and natural kindness, which made him beloved by all the merchants in the area. As he passed in front of the Central Cafe, his little bar where he had his churro every morning, he heard an agitated voice coming from inside. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the card has been declined again. Perhaps you could try another card." Diego stopped and looked through the window. An elegant woman of about 35 years old with long blonde hair and a perfect gray suit was nervously rummaging through her brown leather handbag. She had the air of someone accustomed to success, but at that moment she seemed completely lost. "I don't understand," the woman murmured. "Yesterday, everything was work." Diego saw the shame painted on her face as other customers began to look at her with curiosity. The woman checked her phone, evidently looking for her bank's app, but her expression became even more worried. Without thinking twice, Diego entered the cafe. "Excuse me," he said to the waiter. "How much does the lady owe?" "3 for a coffee with milk and toast," responded Paco, the bar owner who had known Diego for years. Diego took out his wallet. It contained exactly 8, everything he had left until his next paycheck at the end of the week. Without hesitating, he gave 3 to Paco. "Please, ma'am," he said, addressing the blonde woman. "Don't worry, it happens to anyone." The woman looked at him in amazement. "But you can't. You don't even know me." "Precisely," Diego smiled. "That's why it's beautiful to help each other as strangers. Today I help you. Tomorrow, perhaps you'll help someone else." Carmen Vasquez, that was her real name, was left speechless. For years she had been accustomed to people who wanted something from her, who courted her out of interest. This stranger in a security guard uniform had just made a selfless gesture that moved her deeply. "How? How can I?" she asked, her voice broken with emotion. "By having a good day," Diego responded, already heading toward the exit, "and perhaps smiling at someone who needs it." As Diego left the cafe, Carmen remained motionless, gripping the coffee cup between her trembling hands. It wasn't just the problem with the credit card that was upsetting her. That morning she had received a call that had changed her life. Her company, Vasquez Holdings, was under investigation for alleged tax irregularities. Her accounts had been frozen, her reputation was in shambles, and she found herself alone against the world. However, that gesture of kindness from a stranger had given her a spark of hope that she hadn't felt in weeks. Carmen looked through the window at Diego walking away down the street and made a decision that would change everything. That night, Carmen returned home to her penthouse in the Salamanca neighborhood with one fixed idea in mind. She had to find that man, not to return the 3, that was the least of it, but because in that gesture she had seen something she had forgotten existed: authentic humanity. Sitting in her office, surrounded by legal documents and court summons, Carmen opened her laptop. Her business skills also included notable investigative ability, a competence she had developed over the years to verify partners and competitors. Central Café Gran Via, she wrote in Google Maps. Then she called the bar. Central Café speaking. Good evening. I'm the lady from this morning, the one whose card didn't work. Ah, yes. How are you? Did the bank issue get resolved? Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask about the security guard who helped me. Does he work nearby? Diego. Yes, he's a good kid. He works at El Corte Inglés. Why? I wanted to thank him. Of course. Thank you very much. The next day, Carmen dressed completely differently. Jeans, sweatshirt, sneakers, and a brown wig. She wanted to observe Diego without being recognized to understand what kind of person he really was. She positioned herself in a cafe across from the entrance to El Corte Inglés and began her observation mission. What she saw deeply impacted her. Diego wasn't just a security guard. He was the human heart of that place. She saw him help an elderly lady with heavy shopping bags, patiently give directions to a confused family of tourists, and even stop to play for a few minutes with a crying child while his parents shopped. During lunch break, Carmen followed him at a distance. Diego entered a small restaurant, ordered only a plate of paella, evidently the most economical item on the pad. Carmen's plan was elegant in its simplicity. Her holding company was about to acquire a Madrid startup specialized in cybersecurity. They would coincidentally publish a job advertisement for a senior cybersecurity specialist with requirements that perfectly matched Diego's profile. But doctor, asked Marcos, what if he doesn't respond to the ad? Carmen smiled mysteriously. Then we'll have to be a little more creative. 3 days later, while Diego was patrolling at El Corte Inglés, an elegant woman approached him. It was Clara, the Human Resources Director of CyberGuard Madrid, one of Carmen's holding companies. Excuse me, said Clara. Are you Diego Martinez? Diego was surprised. Yes, that's me. Can I help you? I'm Clara Ruiz, HR Director at CyberGuard Madrid. A client of ours spoke very highly of you as a professional in the cybersecurity field. I'm sorry, I think there's a misunderstanding. I work as a security guard. I know, smiled Clara, but I've seen your online resume and your computer engineering degree. We're looking for a senior cybersecurity specialist. Would you be interested in an interview? Diego was dumbfounded. I haven't sent my resume to anyone. An external consultant suggested your name to us. Apparently you made an excellent impression on someone in the sector. That night Diego called his mother with trembling hands from excitement. Mom, you're not going to believe it. They've offered me an interview for a computer engineer position after 3 years. Oh, my son, it's wonderful, but who recommended you? I don't know, Mom. They say someone in the sector spoke well of me. Maybe it's destiny. Carmen, who was listening through Marcos, who had discreetly recorded the phone conversation from the cafe below Diego's apartment, felt tears in her eyes. He's so happy, she thought. When was the last time I made someone so happy without wanting anything in return? The interview was set for the following week, and Carmen personally ensured everything went perfectly. Diego should never know that behind this opportunity was the woman from the cafe whom he had helped without asking for anything in return. But fate had prepared a surprise that not even Carmen had foreseen. On the day of the interview, Diego woke up at dawn. He had ironed his only good suit and had studied for an entire week, reviewing everything he knew about cybersecurity. He was nervous, but determined. Carmen, for her part, had decided to personally attend the interview. She couldn't resist the temptation to see Diego in his professional element. She had hidden in the adjacent conference room with the excuse of preparing other documents. Mr. Martinez, began Clara, tell us about your experience in cybersecurity. Diego began to speak, and Carmen was fascinated by his competence and passion. He wasn't just technically good, but had an ethical vision of computer security that was rarely found in the sector. I believe cybersecurity isn't just protecting data, said Diego, but protecting people. Behind every computer system, there are human lives, families, dreams. When we protect a system, we protect all of this. Carmen felt a chill. It was exactly the type of mentality she looked for in her best employees. The interview was going perfectly when the unexpected happened. Diego's phone began ringing insistently. "Sorry," he said, embarrassed. "I normally have it turned off, but—" "Answer it calmly," said Clara kindly. "Hello? What? Mom, calm down. How? The ambulance, I'm coming." Diego went pale. "I'm very sorry, but I have to leave. My mother has been taken to the hospital. Can we postpone this?" "Of course," responded Clara. "Go, and don't worry about the interview." Diego ran out, and Carmen, without thinking twice, followed him. At Ramon y Cajal Hospital, Diego ran through the halls looking for his mother. Carmen followed him at a distance with her heart in her throat from worry for this man she had learned to deeply respect. "Mr. Martinez," said a doctor, "your mother had a fainting spell, but she's stable. However, she'll need urgent surgery." "How much does it cost?" asked Diego with a choked voice. "With medical insurance, your part will be about 15,000. Diego sat on a bench, his head in his hands. Carmen knew that with his security guard salary, that figure was impossible to reach. It was at that moment that Carmen made the most important decision of her life. She couldn't stay hidden anymore. She had to act. She approached Diego. "Excuse me." Diego looked up and recognized her immediately. "You, the lady from the cafe." "Yes," said Carmen gently. "And I have a confession to make to you." "I don't understand," said Diego, looking at Carmen with confusion. "What are you doing here?" Carmen sat beside him on the hospital bench. "Diego, I must tell you the truth. The job interview, I was the one who organized it." "What?" "I'm Carmen Vasquez, CEO of Vasquez Holdings. CyberGuard Madrid is one of my companies." Diego looked at her incredulously. "But why? I don't understand." Carmen breathed deeply. "That day at the cafe, when you paid for my coffee, I was going through the darkest moment of my life. My company was under investigation. My accounts were blocked. I thought I had lost everything. Your gesture reminded me that selfless goodness still exists in the world." "3," murmured Diego. "You did all this for 3? "Not for the 3, Carmen," and smiled through tears. "For the kindness, for treating me like a human being when my whole world was crumbling. You didn't know who I was, how rich or poor I was. You helped me simply because it was the right thing to do." Diego shook his head. "But the job? I don't deserve all this." "You're wrong," said Carmen firmly. "I had your background verified. You're extraordinarily qualified. I only put you in contact with the right opportunity. You passed the interview on your own merits." "And now?" asked Diego, looking toward the operating room where his mother was. Carmen took out her phone. "Now I let you concentrate on your mother. As for the medical expenses, Vasquez Holdings has an assistance fund for employees and their families. But I'm not officially an employee yet." "You have been since you agreed to do the interview," smiled Carmen. "Consider this an advance on your salary." 3 hours later, Maria Martinez's surgery had gone perfectly. The doctors assured that she would recover completely. "I don't know how to thank you," said Diego with tears in his eyes. "You know perfectly well," responded Carmen. "Keep being the person you are. Keep helping strangers when they need it. Keep believing in the goodness of people. But you, why did you risk so much for me? I mean, I'm just a security guard who paid for your coffee." Carmen looked into his eyes. "Diego, in my life, I've met thousands of people, business people, politicians, celebrities, but most wanted something from me. You were the first person in years who gave me something without asking for anything in return. You restored my faith in humanity." That night, as they returned together from the hospital, Carmen and Diego walked through the streets of Madrid talking like old friends. Two completely different worlds that had met thanks to a gesture of kindness. "Do you know what I think?" said Carmen. "I think we were destined to meet. You needed an opportunity. I needed to remember what's truly important in life." Diego smiled. "My mother always says that kindness is the only investment that never loses value." "Your mother is a wise woman," responded Carmen, "and she raised an extraordinary son." 6 months later, Diego Martinez had become one of the best cybersecurity specialists in Madrid. His ethical approach and dedication had made him valuable not only to CyberGuard, but to all of Carmen's holding companies. Carmen, for her part, had overcome the legal crisis she had gone through. The investigation had proven her innocence, and her company had emerged stronger than before. But most important was the change she had experienced as a person. "Diego," said Carmen during one of their weekly meetings, "I have a proposal for you." "I'm listening." "I want you to become director of a new project, a corporate social responsibility program that helps talented young people in difficulties find job opportunities." Diego smiled. "A way to multiply what you did for me." "Exactly. We'll call it Project Coffee. Small gestures that change big lives." 1 year later, Project Coffee had helped more than 200 young people find qualified work. The story of Carmen and Diego had become legendary in Madrid's business world, not for the millions involved, but for the demonstration that kindness is the world's most valuable currency. "Do you know what I've learned?" Carmen said to Diego during the inauguration of Project Coffee's new training center. "What?" "That paying for a 3 coffee can be worth more than any €1,000,000 contract, because when you invest in people's goodness, the return is infinite." Diego looked at the room full of young people who were beginning their free professional training. "And I've learned that sometimes helping a stranger means helping yourself without even knowing it." Diego's mother, completely recovered, was in the front row with a radiant smile. "My son," she said,
to Carmen, "has always told me that kindness is contagious. Thank you for proving he was right." Carmen shook Diego's hand. "Thank you for teaching me that true success isn't measured by what you accumulate, but by what you give." Their story proved that sometimes the smallest gesture can create the biggest impact, and that in a world where everything has a price, kindness remains the only thing that cannot be bought. It can only be given and received, creating an infinite chain of good that transforms lives, one cup of coffee at a time. If this story has moved you and made you believe in the power of kindness, leave a little heart below. I want to hear from you. Have you ever made a small gesture that had unexpected consequences? Do you believe that kindness toward strangers can really change the world? Tell me your stories of kindness that created miracles in the comments. If this story touched your heart, like it. If you believe small gestures can create big changes, subscribe so you don't miss stories that prove goodness always wins. Share with someone who needs to believe in the magic of everyday kindness. Comment, "Contagious kindness," if you also believe in the power of small gestures. Remember, in a world that often seems cold and distant, each of us has the power to be the ray of sunshine in someone's day. Sometimes the price of a coffee is enough to change a life. And who knows, maybe that stranger you help today is the person who will change your tomorrow. See you in the next video with another story that will make you believe in the magic hidden in everyday gestures of goodness.